Story 1. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom no one asked you to have another kid? I'll give background to who I am. I'm 16 male with 2 parents, one 38 female, one 40 male, 3 younger sisters, one 14, one is 2, and one due in March. I'm in high school junior year, doing well, passing my classes with mostly A's, making honor roll every year, and a good kid in high school. I wouldn't consider myself a lazy person either, as I work out 3 to 5 times a week, wrestle during the winter, and clean the house 2 to 5 times a week. I don't normally socialize often outside of school, as I don't feel motivated to do so then I just stay inside and either play my game, read, study a language, or pray. 3 years ago, my mom and dad both worked. My mom used to work around 50 to 80 hours a week to catch up on bills. Oftentimes, she would come home tired and would sleep during the day, while my dad would work around 40 to 50-ish hours and would be tired too. Oftentimes, my mom would complain about no one doing anything around the house and call me and my sister lazy. I usually don't say anything to those complaints, but sometimes I get irritated and say I actually clean around the house and that you only sleep, so of course you wouldn't pay attention. Moving forward a year or so, when my mom announced she was pregnant, I was kind of irritated because she would always complain about bills and how she needed to catch up on them. I proceeded to say, how are you going to say you need to catch up on bills but then have another child? I can't remember what she had told me, but a month or 2 later, the reason she wanted to have another kid was because I love being a mother. In my head at the time, I kind of seen it as selfish, as she didn't want to be alone. Somewhere in June or July 2023, my mom was pregnant, but then had a miscarriage 5 weeks later. 2 weeks later, she got pregnant again with a girl. I wanted to work over the summer and to be a little bit more independent, as I'm only a few years from being a legal adult, so I asked my mom if I could work. She said yes, but she needs to get money for an ID. The next thing you know, she never gives me my ID to work. My mom complains that I go out a lot and give my attention to my girlfriend instead of my baby sister or the things around the house, saying I half-butt things around here. Many times, I don't have a problem with playing or watching my sister, but at times my mom makes it seem like I'm obligated to watch my sister anytime she's tired from work or sees she's struggling. And that she once again says she pays for everything and all I do is ask for items just because I clean the house like I'm supposed to do. Which I feel as isn't true, as I hardly ask for wants. One comment she said was I can walk to school. Mind you, it's winter, and when I wanted to walk to school, she said it was not safe to do so. And she won't be paying my phone bill anymore as it's her money and have my girlfriend pay for it instead. I made the comment when I wanted to work, you said no because I'm not ready, then started yelling at me, telling me to go to my room while slamming the doors. First off, this mom is sending a lot of weird mixed messages, which, to be fair, if she's pregnant, hormones are going to play havoc with the brain and everything, so there can be a little leeway given there, but, I mean, this sounds like these problems extend beyond just the pregnancy. And also, like, holding these things against a kid who's clearly helping her out around the house, but then also wants to have a social life. Like, I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, that you're having to work so many hours. That sucks. That's a terrible part of the economy, but you also can't be taking that out on your kids and having another kid just because you love being a mother. That's not good, especially if you're struggling to get by and not able to provide for the kid you already have and you want another huge expense. Like, I don't care how much you love being a mother. You want to be able to provide for the people you make and love and keep in your life. I don't know. There's a lot going on here that's just not okay. And it sounds like the parents are struggling and having a lot of troubles, but they're putting the weight of all those on their kids, which just isn't right. Story 2. My mom neglected me and ditched me for her new family, so I decided to ditch her as well. Little background of myself, I'm a 19 male, was born when my mom was 17 and my dad was 19. My dad has been in prison the majority of my life for non-violent drug charges. My mom got married when I was 10 to my stepdad. Just to clarify, my mom and dad were never married. They dated each other and eventually hooked up and had me. My problems with my mom started when she got pregnant with my sister, and then after she had my sister, she got pregnant again and had my brother, and I became like a ghost. She hardly paid attention to me. She neglected me emotionally, and I felt like I was unwanted in her life. It didn't matter anymore. As I grew up, I continued to try to get her to talk to me, but she was always busy. With my brother and sister, every family activity they did together, she always excluded me. It was always my stepdad and mom and my siblings, except for me, like I wasn't part of the family. This is how I came to my conclusion that my mom hates me or she dislikes me. As I mentioned before, I have 2 younger siblings aged 4 and 9. One day, my mom comes into my room. She's all dressed up and racing around, and I ask if she's going somewhere. She tells me no, and I go back to playing on my computer. No later than 15 minutes, I hear the garage door go up, so I race downstairs thinking, what the heck? Sure enough, my mom, stepdad, and my sister and brother are all dressed up and in the truck, and I'm standing outside feeling really uncomfortable. The look she gave me as she jumped into the truck made me feel like I was interrupting her. There wasn't an, oh yeah, sorry. It was just a look of absolute disgust. I don't cry very easily, but something about the whole thing really got to me, and I went back inside and cried a bit, but then got over it. Wasn't the first time. She texts me 10 minutes later telling me they're just going to the park. I don't respond because I would have just worked myself up again. Fast forward, they get home, I was eating dinner, and my 9-year-old sister rushes in after my mom is super excited to tell me about everything they had done. They hadn't gone to the park. My mom had lied to me, saying they went to the park when they'd actually gone to Dave & Buster's. They also went to get milkshakes and went shopping. I was visibly crushed by it. My little sister noticed I had gotten upset. I could tell my mom was about to start making excuses and making the circumstances my fault, so to keep my little sister and brother from seeing that I excused myself to my room quietly. It super sucked. I've been trying so hard to be a good son despite the selfishness my mother and her chaotically selfish ways have on me, but once I realized that crap isn't normal, I started questioning our relationship. That we once had, I didn't see any safe way out without ending up on the streets broke. 19 years old, unemployed, by the way. So, I joined the army. It was spur of the moment, and she still doesn't know. I can handle it, and it's the first decision I've actually made on my own. I cannot tell you how excited I am for BCT soon. Sorry everyone, I just wanted to get this off my chest and share my story. Edit. I would like people to know that I don't hate my brother and sister. I like my brother and sister. They also like me. I have good memories of spending time with them. At this point, they're the only thing that I consider family, and I hope they understand why I moved away. I hope that when I come back from the army, they will still see me as their big brother. I would also like people to know that my grandparents from my mom's side of the family passed away already, and my grandparents from my bio dad's side of the family also passed away. My grandmother passed away 2 years after I was born, and my grandfather passed away when my dad was 15 years old. My bio dad is the only child they had. My mom has only one sister, and she's married with 3 kids. Her kids are around the same age as me, and she and her husband live paycheck to paycheck, and I don't want to be a burden to them. That's why I never went to live with them. It's really, really rough to hear all of that, because I genuinely feel like that's not just bad parenting, that's abusive parenting to neglect your other child like that, to have them raised like that. I mean, whether or not they're 19 and you feel like they should be out on their own or whatever, as a parent, it was your job to prepare them for that, to help them get to the point. So, I just can't side with this mom whatsoever. And as mixed as my feelings can be about the military and stuff like that, I wish this person well in basic training. I hope that it's a good experience, that they're able to set aside money. And when they're done with it, I hope they're able to have their own place and realize that, yes, they can still have a wonderful relationship with their little brother and sister, and they don't have to have a relationship with that mom who clearly doesn't want a relationship with them, which is just heartbreaking. But you know what? There are people out there who will love you and treat you right, and I hope you find them. Story 3. Today, I effed up by falling for a fake job scam and losing $3,000. Obligatory, this has been the past 2 weeks. I got laid off from a job in the middle of September and have been struggling to find work. I've gotten my resume revamped and been working with career coaches, but nothing seems to be helping with it. After my final resume was returned to me, I began shooting applications off, and within a day or two, I got an email from a company that wanted to interview me for a remote position. Hell yeah, I thought to myself. It looks like the service worked and I just needed to spiff up my resume. For the past 5 years, I've had an hour commute each way and then another 3 years doing 45 minutes before that. Remote work sounded like a dream come true. A few days later, they sent me an interview packet. It's a questionnaire in lieu of a panel interview. A little strange, but not unheard of. All the questions were legit questions, and the technical ones were very technical. Some companies get that asking someone to come up with an optimal solution on the spot and under pressure makes them miss out on good candidates that are just awkward in those situations. This was a mathematical role, so it goes doubly true. I spent the next day working on the interview packet and forwarding drafts to my career coach to make sure I wasn't shooting myself in the foot by being too honest, as I'm not a great salesman and am open about things I struggle with instead of claiming I was a burrito rolling artisan and avocado processing manager at Qdoba. The coach said everything checked out, and then after a few revisions, I had a pretty good interview packet. I proceed to send it off. A few days later, I got the congratulations email, and I'm ecstatic. I finally have a job doing something I like, and I get to do it in my pajamas. I accepted the offer, and the next day they sent me the offer letter and asked me to sign. I review the contract closely as I'm a paranoid person, and so far it seemed a little strange that I haven't talked to anyone on the phone. The contract has all the right logos and addresses, the pay is well within the range for the job, albeit on the higher end, and everything passes the sniff check. I sign the document and send it back. The next day, they send me a check for $5,000 for work equipment, and my boss gets in contact with me to set up my training and explains the day-to-day to me and gets a feel for where my R and Python skills are at. Again, this is not out of the ordinary. I've had jobs that have sent me checks before for relocation and equipment, but being paranoid, I do some due diligence. The domain name of the email address for the HR person looks legit. No tricky characters or using two N's to make an M. The person I'm emailing is the actual HR person at this company. My boss is an actual manager at the company. The check has the right watermarks and address on it. It's signed by the actual CEO of the company. Everything is checked out. My boss tells me I need to use their vendor to order the computer and hard drives and stuff. The first conscious red flag popped here for me, but the vendor site looked legit, and it was a 10% discount off the MSRP for the equipment they wanted me to have, so I sent $2,000 to the vendor. The order goes through, and I breathe a bit easier, now comfortably believing I have a job and that it's not a scam, which is where they wanted me. I'm buttered up, and my brain is smoothed out. The location of the company was Eastern Time Zone, and I live in Mountain Time, so the next morning I woke up at the respectable unemployed hour of 10 a.m. to a series of texts and emails from 7 a.m. saying that they're trying to get a hold of me and need me to send $1,000 to another vendor for some additional equipment. If you've ever been desperately unemployed, then you know that occasionally you do dumb stuff in hopes of a job, like accepting lower pay, taking something you're overqualified for, or in my case, worried they were going to fire me before I even started. So, half asleep, I sent another $1,000, but my dumb butt can tell something is up now. A couple of hours later, they try to get me to send some more money, and I tell them that I hit my card limit for the day and I couldn't spend more. So they asked me to go to a friggin' Bitcoin ATM and send them Bitcoin. My heart sank, and I realized that not only was I getting scammed, but that I was also out $3,000, which is money I need to survive as an unemployed person. I start reviewing everything and notice that I've literally been getting "would you kindly'd" this whole time like it's effing BioShock. As I scrolled through messages, the amount of times I got a "would you kindly" suddenly leapt out at me. How could I be so stupid? I decided to keep these guys going for a while instead of immediately calling them out. Figure if they're wasting time on me, then they can't use it on someone else. While I went on LinkedIn and found the cybersecurity manager and hit him up and asked what's going on. I ended up talking to one of the managers who confirmed that it was indeed a scam, that I had a real check that belonged to the company, and that all the documents were real, just that it wasn't real for me. Cue calling my bank and filing for fraud and making a police report. Obviously, there isn't much they can do for me, but there's always a chance that a scam this elaborate could be undone by them not using spoofed numbers. As we come to a close on my lengthy tale, I have some good news. I have gotten back the $1,000 I sent out. No idea what happens to the other $2,000, and I'm not holding my breath, but it's something. If you've never been scammed before, I can now tell you that it's one of the worst feelings. You feel dumb, embarrassed, angry, ashamed, and afraid. My dad fell for the Google gift card scam, and my mom often buys the weird health knickknacks like those stickers that improve your balance. I've always said everybody is vulnerable to at least one scam, and I finally found mine. I'm lucky to have a supportive wife who hasn't yelled at me somehow about being dumb, and at least I could talk to my dad about how much it sucks since he understands it. I can't stand scammers like this. And believe me, I understand that a lot of the people doing scams like this are people who are struggling financially and doing whatever they can to get by, and I feel some tiny amount of sympathy for them that gets absolutely squashed out when they start scamming other regular folks, oftentimes other people who are probably struggling financially. And so, yeah, scammers, I'm sorry, I don't have any sympathy left for you because what you're doing is awful. And I hope every scammer gets caught, and I hope that you pay for what you've done because it's just miserable. And for folks out there, be as careful as you can, but as this person has shown, even though that they were careful and trying to check stuff, sometimes in the moment you're still just going to miss things. So yeah, go to your bank as quick as possible, file reports. Like sometimes you can get stuff back, but act as quick as you possibly can. Story 4. My 20 male friend, 22 male, wants me to step aside so he can try to date my not girlfriend, 18 female. Long version. A little over 3 years ago, I had just gotten out of a relationship with a girl who was really abusive. I broke up with her shortly before I graduated high school and wanted to take some time to focus on myself. Of course, a few weeks after the breakup, I met the most gorgeous girl I've ever met, and we really hit it off. I'll refer to her as Lisa. She had also gotten out of an abusive relationship, so neither of us were looking for anything serious. At the time, my driver's license was suspended. Too much speeding, bad time in my life, learned my lesson. And my friend, I'll call him Ken, would offer to drive me to see her. For a few months, we would mostly just all hang out together because we all got along really well, and she and I would mostly just cuddle up if we were all watching a movie. Sometimes we would sneak off for a few minutes to make out a little, but not long because we didn't want to be rude to Ken. Lisa and Ken developed their own friendship during this time, but it was obviously platonic on both ends, like an older brother/younger sister dynamic. Ken also had a girlfriend of 4 years then, but they were hanging by a thread. After 6 months, I got my license back, and I'd go to see Lisa/take her out without Ken. At that point, Lisa and I started having intercourse. We both really liked each other, but I panicked and sort of ghosted her for a few weeks. Lisa and Ken continued talking, and he said he wasn't going to stop being friends with her because I was being an idiot. Fair enough. I realized I was being stupid, and Lisa agreed to see me again. We immediately picked right back up where we left off. Around this time, Ken and his girlfriend broke up, so I moved in with him. I would go see Lisa a few times a week, and she would come to our place on the weekends, and we would all hang out. That continued for several more months until she ghosted me for about 2 weeks. She told Ken she was afraid I would bail again, and she didn't want to go through the pain again. We worked it out, but embarrassingly, this cycle has since repeated once or twice. Not in over a year, though. Over the last year especially, mostly since she turned 18, I've noticed Ken has acted differently around Lisa. He'll flirt with her in front of me. She's very friendly with him, but does not flirt back and pulls away when he touches her. I told him I don't like it, but he said it doesn't matter if he flirts with her. She loves me. She says she doesn't feel that way about Ken at all, and everything indicates that's the truth. Ken has also started drinking more lately, and the other night, Lisa was not here, he started whining about life not being fair. I took the bait and asked what was wrong, and he started rambling about how Lisa is too good for me and I don't deserve her. I agree, but it still pees me off. He then told me he is in love with her, has been for a while, and if I cared for either of them at all, I'd step aside so he could pursue her. I didn't want to argue with him while he was drunk, so I went to bed. I confronted him in the morning, and he doubled down. He said that I can't commit. I can't give her what she wants/needs. She isn't my girlfriend. She's a fair game to try to date. Am I the wrong for thinking this is messed up? Lisa and I do have an unconventional relationship, I'll admit. We don't refer to each other as boyfriend and girlfriend, but we don't sleep with other people. We tell each other we love each other. She usually stays at my place, and we have a good relationship with each other's families. I think we're pretty happy together. I know she doesn't want to be with him, so I'm not worried about that, but since Ken said those things, I can't help but question if I'm being unfair to Lisa by holding her back with me. Boy, if only there was someone that you could ask who Lisa wants to be with. If only there was a person who might know what she wants, and you could both just respect her wishes. I mean, and you, person writing this, knows this. You know that you say you're in love, you have an unconventional relationship, whatever, and she's not interested in Ken. She's told you that. What you do with this information is you go and you tell Lisa, like, hey, Ken's interested in you, or this or that, or do you want to be with me? Are you okay with this relationship? Where do you want to see it going? Just have some open communication with Lisa and let her make her own frigging decisions and tell Ken, it's up to her, dummy. And if you can't respect what she wants, you definitely don't deserve to be with her. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.